For 2 hours, Joe Biden tried to convince America that he was a success and that he had wins under his belt. But after the disaster of a press conference, the White House has simply attempted to pick up the pieces. No matter how hard Biden tries, he is simply a failure. This is the Closet Conservative Podcast. Earlier this week, Joe Biden gave a 2-hour press conference. It was on the 1-year anniversary of him taking office, and it was designed to be a self-promotion press conference. He wanted to highlight all of his wins. He wanted to say how much he has accomplished in his first year of office. He said that he has performed so much better than anyone imagined he would ever perform in his first year. Now, whatever level of delusion this man has is much worse than we all previously realized. Joe Biden has yet to accomplish one single thing since taking office. He claimed he was going to end the pandemic, and he failed. The pandemic still rages on with variant after variant. There have been more deaths during Biden's administration, more cases of COVID, and the government continues to push for jab after jab. He claimed he was going to bring back millions of jobs. He has failed. The economy continues to struggle as millions of businesses cannot find workers, and those who want to work are finding refuge outside of typical labor markets. We are still well below the 10 million jobs that were lost because of the pandemic. He had said he was going to build America back better. His version of better has been nothing short of a disaster. Inflation is through the roof. Americans are struggling to find everyday items at the store, and Biden's only thought is that we simply need to give him the ability to give away more free stuff. But free stuff is what got us into this mess. Free handouts for the unemployed or the laid off work amid the pandemic, free handouts of child tax credits, free handouts of the government support for everyone while pandering fear in this pandemic. That's what got us in this situation in the first place. Free handouts are not going to end the pandemic or the looming economic crisis in our nation. The supply chain woes continue and appear that they will get much worse thanks to mandatory vaccines for truck drivers that is scheduled to take place. Just recently, Canada put this in place, and it already made supply chain issues worse. But we're to believe that Joe Biden has been successful. We are to believe that his first year was much better than expectations. Americans certainly do not seem to think so. Overwhelmingly, Americans view Biden as a failure. You see that in the polls, about the approval polls. They see his presidency as an absolute train wreck. And if a new election were held today, Biden would lose in a landslide. Biden swears that Americans will look back on his presidency as a success. But that means that the narrative is going to have to dramatically change from what it is today. That's why he and the Democrats are actively searching for a win. That is why he is considering scaling back his infrastructure plan to only pass pieces. He wants to piecemeal any potential legislation he can in order to get a few small wins. He wants to work on passing small pieces of voter legislation. He needs a few small wins. And then he's going to be able to go parade around scripted appearances and claim victories. Because that's how the Democrats want to do this. That's how they want to follow up and address this disastrous appearance that he made this week. Jen Psaki, she went around doing press conference after press conference or news appearance after news appearance in an attempt to salvage Joe Biden's statements. Then Biden appeared to address his most disastrous statement all about Russia and Ukraine. Biden took to the airwaves to try to salvage this again even more himself. And about the Democrats' plan to move forward, he said that they must share their success with Americans to win them over for the elections this year, that they must tell Americans what they have accomplished. I'm going to play you a clip of what Biden had to say. I want you to hear what he says about the Democrats' playbook.
This election in 2022 is critical. We have to keep control of the House and the Senate and expand our majorities. We need to re-elect and elect Democratic governors and mayors, state legislators, and candidates up and down the ticket. And the way we're going to do that is by telling the voters what we've done and what we plan to do. By making it clear, there's a clear choice. A choice between a party that works for people and is focused on the future, and a party that's completely controlled by one man and is focused on relitigating the past.
Yes, for Biden and the Democrats, this is still about one man. It's still about Donald Trump. But if you're like me and you're listening to the podcast today, you're thinking exactly what I'm thinking. What accomplishments is he talking about? Biden still has yet to accomplish one single thing that he can claim since he took office. And as I said before, he's a complete failure. For the Democrats, this is about power. This is not about accomplishments. This is not about taking care of America. If that's what they were interested in, they would have changed their policies. They'd have changed these legislations that they've been trying to pass. This is about power. This is about control. But more than that, world leaders see in Joe Biden what Americans who voted for him are already quickly learning and regretting. He's a disaster. He's weak. He's a failure. And he is mentally incapable of leading our nation. This man cannot even put a cohesive sentence together without reading it from a teleprompter or a sheet of paper, and even then he screws it up. But we're to believe that he is capable of critical thinking and leading our nation. The truth is, Joe Biden needs a win, and no matter how hard he tries, he cannot find one. For the Republicans, if they have any hope of stopping the radical disaster train that's currently taking place in our nation, they should keep it that way. They should not even consider negotiating or caving on any legislative policy that Biden would like to put out there. They should not give Biden one single legislative victory this year. I don't care if it's a bipartisan piece of legislation or not. Do not cave on any piece of the spending bills, the infrastructure bills, or any other radical legislation. Don't pass one single aspect of this voter law that they want to pass to federalize elections. I don't care what aspect they pull out of any of these bills. Do not allow it to pass. Keep Biden at bay. They have the power. They have the ability to do it. They've proven that. They can stop the complete Biden agenda and continue to maintain him as a failure. He's not going to change his economic policy. He's not going to change his other policies. He's going to hold those things in place. Inflation is going to continue unchecked. All the things around here are going to continue to go around our nation. They're going to continue to go in the same direction they've been going. Nothing's going to change. Americans are learning a tough lesson right now. You put an idiot in the White House, and this is what you get. The Republicans, they need to let Biden suffer in his failures. They wanted to complain about a few mean tweets, but the majority of Americans right now would welcome some mean tweets instead of what's happening in our country. Especially if that meant bringing back the economy, the freedoms that Biden has destroyed, and a leader who is not afraid to lead rather than bow to others' interests. The Closet Conservative Podcast is a production of the Liberty Loft. Copyright The Liberty Loft 2022. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to our podcast and remember to leave a 5-star review and share our podcast with your friends. You can find more shows and information on our website, www.thelibertyloft.com, or on any of our social media channels.